Welcome everyone from busy Hanoi. I'm coming to you because a lot has been going on and I thought I would just come on here. You might hear a lot of noise in the background, but I don't care. I gotta talk to you about all that has been happening. First, Israel gave a 24-hour notice for Palestinians in Gaza to get out of northern Gaza. This was seen by many as a call for genocide. That actually has already started. More than 1,000 Palestinians, in addition, have been killed. Now the death toll is getting toward 2,000, hundreds of children. It is absolutely horrific. Here you see busy Hanoi. I just got here today. This is October 14th. And I'm coming to you for a really quick video to talk geopolitics. First, I needed to talk about the Israel situation. The Israel situation is getting out of hand. The Chinese government, China, has been meeting. Wang Yi, top official of foreign ministry, said today that the injustice that Palestinians have been going through needs to stop and needs to stop now. He did so in a joint press conference with Jungle Joseph Borrell. And we're in for a really rough ride when it comes to what's going on with Palestine. This could be indeed a long war. That's what Netanyahu is saying. That is what it is looking like. But this 24-hour notice that was given to Gaza by Israel's defense forces, by Benjamin Netanyahu, is indeed a call to not just a long war, but indeed a rapid genocide. That is not an exaggeration. This is something that Israel has been conducting for I don't know how long, decades now. And what I'm seeing is, in reaction to what's going on, is a huge split, but I think it's for the best. Because what Israel is exposing is, number one, that the United States and its unipolar empire is indeed on the decline. It has nothing left to offer but misery, but hopelessness, but death. And Palestinians, through their resistance, I mean, this was a well-organized resistance. They have shown that this empire has nothing else to offer. And Israel is indeed the conduit of U.S. empire. It is an outpost of U.S. empire. And so we're seeing Joe Biden, we're seeing European governments, we're seeing NATO governments double down on their support for Israel, while people in Palestine suffer. People in Palestine are suffering. There's been an intensification of what is an existing blockade. People need to understand this. Gaza has been blockaded for years and years now, but there's been intensification of it. As this 24-hour notice came down on the people of Gaza, Palestinians began to flee, and what happened? They were shot at, they were bombed. And we've already seen dozens upon dozens killed because of this. Children have been killed. White phosphorus has been used and deployed on children's hospitals in Palestine, in Gaza. The carnage truly knows no bounds. And you see all over social media, people like Abby Martin, journalists who know people in Gaza, saying that with this blockade, with this cutting off of electricity, what we're going to see is not just Palestinians dying en masse, but we're also going to see their voices completely and utterly silenced. And all of this is happening, this conflict, which could turn into a wider war, mind you. This could turn into Hezbollah entering the war. We know that Netanyahu, we know that the neocons are looking at Iran as well as a possible target. We know Syria has supported Palestine for years and years and years. And all of these forces could indeed join this war should things end up going south here. Should Israel actually do what it says it's going to do, which is launch a ground operation inside of Gaza and escalate what already is a massacre. Escalate what already is a massacre. But it's all coming as the Ukraine conflict. You heard John Kirby, spokesperson for the National Security Council of the United States, what he said it's at the end of the ropes. The Ukraine conflict is at the end of its ropes. meaning that Putin is right. The counteroffensive is dead. Zelensky is desperate. You see him traveling around to the NATO headquarters. You see him making statement after statement about Israel. And it's all because attention has shifted away from him, has shifted away from the proxy war. Russia has indeed defeated Ukraine on the battlefield. And now it looks like the empire, this unipolar order, is looking for another arena to cement and expand its hegemony. And Palestinians are often seen as the most vulnerable, as those who cannot fight back. But they showed actually that indeed they can. And that is what has triggered Israel to this degree. Israel thought it was the strongest military in the region. It thought it was one of the strongest militaries in the world. And Palestinians, led by groups like Hamas and others, showed that actually the opposite is the case. So this is a monumental moment in history. We're going to continue to see carnage. We're going to continue to see destruction. But we're also going to continue to see really interesting developments like what's happening in Palestine. And I think we're going to see the multipolar world really shape up, really strengthen here. I think we're going to see, you've heard Russia, you've heard China, you've heard these countries say that the only way for a possible solution to this conflict is a ceasefire, along with justice for Palestinians, along with not just justice for Palestinians, but a real understanding that all parties must sit and negotiate and begin a peaceful resolution. Does it sound familiar? Because that's what needed to happen in Ukraine and never did. Israel, of course, Ukraine is a model in a sense that Ukraine has seen itself as the Israel of Europe, similar to how Colombia sees itself as the Israel of Latin America. Ukraine under Zelensky has called itself another Israel, kind of an outpost of the United States. And with that has come a similar posture to Israel. No negotiations, only war. But of course, Ukraine tried to play a defensive posture, that it was indeed being the victim here. It was the victim. So pardon me if I'm getting a little distracted. It is very busy on these streets. Vietnam's a beautiful country, by the way. As you can see, very bright, very bustling. But yeah, Ukraine saw itself as a victim, right? As a democracy, all of this. And that's how Israel is painting itself now. How can a government, Israel, that receives $3 billion plus per year in military aid alone from the United States, be a victim? Palestine has no army. Palestine has no state. And yet it is the victim. Ukraine, the victim, despite being trained, armed, souped up by NATO for over a decade. But yet it's the victim, right? Russia's the aggressor. Palestine is the aggressor here. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? It's absolutely egregious. It just shows that China was right when it talked about the United States. It's an empire of lies. And now we've seen the State Department itself encourage U.S. officials to avoid diplomacy. Avoid diplomacy when it comes to Israel-Palestine. It doesn't matter how many people die, how many schools are bombed, hospitals are bombed. It doesn't matter to the United States, to the political class, especially to the Biden administration. And this Palestine situation has had such an incredible fallout. Look at what has happened to the Israel-Saudi Arabia normalization of relations. Look at what has happened to the Ukraine conflict. The fallout of this is going to be absolutely spectacular. It has shaken up West Asia again. What was once a dead region, a region that had no future in terms of U.S. foreign policy, where the United States had been ousted from Afghanistan, a boondoggle, a stagnant war in Iraq, shifting focus to Asia, to the Asia Pacific, toward China, as well as toward the European theater and Russia. All of that has seemingly gone out the window because Palestine, with resistance forces, the Al-Aqsa flood operation led by forces in Hamas and other resistance groups, these groups turned the table. And it didn't take much. It took hang gliders, it took rudimentary weaponry, and they changed the calculus really, I believe, permanently. So all in all, I think what's really important here is to say that this empire is not invincible. And I'm now in a land that has demonstrated that historically. I mean, Vietnam was one of the poorest countries in the world. More than a majority of its people, 90% of its people, were once illiterate, were once starving and hungry because of French domination. And then, of course, we know what the U.S. did for over a decade, firebombing, destroying this country. And now it is a bustling country, one of the most rapidly developing countries in the world. And that's because it obtained sovereignty, obtained real liberation, real freedom. And it did so through not just the resistance of the people of Vietnam, but through international solidarity. And that's how it's going to happen in Palestine, because Palestine deserves this as well. It deserves to be part of this multipolar world and multipolar moment. It deserves, the people of Palestine deserve their land back. They deserve their self-determination. They deserve so much better than what they have received thus far, how they have been treated thus far. And that day is coming sooner than I think most people thought. Most people didn't think that this was going to be possible so quickly. And now we're seeing, if Hezbollah gets into the game, if Iran gets into the game, that this conflict in the Middle East, in West Asia, is going to change everything. All right, it's going to change everything. And we're talking about a stateless people, a people that have been dispossessed of their sovereignty and self-determination, a people who have had historic ties to the land. You have hundreds of thousands, millions of people thrown out of their homes since 1948, the Nakba, the catastrophe. And now we're seeing a reckoning. And this is what's happening all around the world, this reckoning. Palestine is not alone. I cannot stand when Palestine is talked about as a single issue, because it is not. Palestine is connected to the war on Syria. It's connected to this war on Russia. It's connected to this war on China. It is all about cementing unipolarity, cementing the dominance of the United States over the rest of the planet. And Palestine was seen as a stomping ground, as one where Israel could always expand and be an outpost, a real settlement for U.S. power projection. Now, world public opinion is increasingly not on Israel's side. That's the truth. It's increasingly not on Israel's side. Israel will have, of course, Ursula von der Leyen and Joe Biden say, we stand with you forever. We stand with Israel forever. It doesn't matter. These forces are not looked at by the people of the world as legitimate leaders. They're looked at as puppets of a neoconservative foreign policy establishment, of an oligarchic corporate foreign policy establishment dominated by a tiny few people, while the rest of the world, they see Palestine as just one part of this larger struggle for self-determination for the vast majority of people to have the right to development. And we know that China is about to hold its Belt and Road Forum October 17th and 18th. Vladimir Putin will be there. And that project is not symbolic, but concretely demonstrating what it means to chart a different path. And so Palestine fits into this. The reason why Russia and China champion Palestine's self-determination is because they want to see a world where politically peaceful development is possible. And it's really bothering the neocons right now, the fact that Palestine has done this so quickly. And it's done so on the heels of the failure of the Ukraine proxy war. This failed proxy war that was supposed to put the icing on the cake of the empire's bid to destroy Russia. Did no such thing. And then suddenly Palestine is on fire. Suddenly you have Palestinian resistance breaking through Israel's so-called impenetrable military. It's not impenetrable. Nothing about the empire from the United States to its vassals are impenetrable. The United States is the one that's sabotaging all of it. The United States is the one that has created this warfare state in West Asia. It has created the situation in Ukraine. It is creating powder kegs in the Asia Pacific. And all of it is going to be to the detriment of itself. This empire is crumbling. Places like Vietnam here, they are rising. They are minding their business. They are organizing themselves for their own upliftment. They are raising their standard of living. Guess what? They're not waging war. And that's the fundamental difference in the world right now between places like Vietnam and the United States. This focus on war, this focus on unilateralism, this need to get in the business of everyone else in order to satisfy narrow interests of a tiny few who dominate the political and economic system in these countries. That order is coming to an end, and it's coming to an end really, really fast. So I hope to have more content here in Vietnam. I'm hoping to get a few interviews from people that I made contact with over the years out here, but arguably it is not as robust as, let's say, my contacts in China or elsewhere, even Russia. So I will do my best, all right? But I want to come out here for a short video, short reaction. I want to be respectful also to the people out here. The motorbike situation is a lot, how should I say, a lot more exciting here than, I say, China, because public transit is still in development out here in Vietnam. It's still less developed than a China, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful country. The people are wonderful. It's clean. It is bustling. Economic standards are rising for everybody. There really is hope in places like Vietnam that isn't seen in the United States, because the United States is allowing its own infrastructure, is decreasing wages, suppressing wages, undermining working people. All the while, it is investing trillions in wars and arming to the teeth countries like Israel, whose leadership is all about dispossession and the immiseration of Palestinians, at the expense of global stability, and really at the expense of the vast majority of people. That is what the United States is supporting. That is what the United States is doing. In places like Vietnam, countries like this, they know what it is like. Millions of people, 3 million estimated, died because of U.S. bombing alone. The U.S. bombing campaign alone, the U.S. invasion alone, that's only over a decade. But when you tally up French colonialism, when you tally up Japanese colonialism, when you tally up the 70 plus years, 80 plus years, 90 plus years that Vietnam incurred foreign intervention from Western powers along with the Japanese fascists, we're talking about millions upon millions, and then we can throw Laos and Cambodia in there for good measure, and the suffering is just unreal. Agent Orange, we're going to be going, my delegation is going to be going to visit sites that are approaching Agent Orange and addressing it, right? I'm with a veterans group in the United States that a few people actually live here, and so they are doing service and work to help victims of Agent Orange here. So that's what I'm going to be doing here, be learning from people, and hopefully having some conversations about geopolitics all along the way, and seeing this beautiful country, a country that I do share a connection to on my mother's side. And I am learning more about it in order to get to know myself better, because I believe Asia is the future. I believe, of course, China is in the lead, but Vietnam is going to play a key role. And their friendship is only growing stronger. Xi Jinping is on his way here, probably toward the tail end of my trip at the end of October, early November. And that trip is going to, I think, solidify and strengthen a relationship, which, of course, the United States has attempted to break apart through this so-called comprehensive strategic partnership, and that Biden tried to cement in September and ultimately failed. The strategic partnership actually was established, but the attempt to divide the China from Vietnam failed mightily. And so we are in for a real treat geopolitically. All right, the world is on fire. I'm keeping a lookout so I don't get hit by a bike. And I'm actually gonna leave you all. I gotta meet up with some folks. But this was a great talk. I'm in Vietnam. This is day number 1. You'll see this at some point, hopefully during my trip. And yes, let's keep abreast of what's happening with Palestine. Let's speak out and speak up. Go to protests, speak out, do what you need to do in order to stand with humanity, because that's what geopolitics really is all about. That's what world affairs really is all about. But I'm over and out here. I'll be here in Vietnam for another 2 weeks and hopefully get you some more content along the way. Peace out. See you again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.